Okay, so I want to talk about some essential database marketing techniques, and you'll be able to refer to this later on. I also have a handout in your file so that you can simply refer to the handout rather than the actual PowerPoint presentation. We call this the 24 Essential Database Marketing Techniques, and it comes from the Database Marketing Institute that was started and run by Arthur Middleton Hughes. Arthur Hughes, a dear colleague of mine, who was one of my early mentors in database marketing. Now, I have multiple reasons for wanting to walk through the essential database marketing techniques with you. One is that I want you to be familiar with what some of the techniques are, and you'll notice as we go through the course that many of these techniques and strategies will be included in our weekly lectures and discussions. But I also want to do this to help you realize that database marketing uses a different set of terminology than traditional marketers use. And as a result, in some cases, it's important for you to go up online and Google a term to find out what database marketers mean when they use a particular term. So as we go through some of these individual slides and essentials, some of them you will say, I've never heard of that. Well, that would be something to spend a little bit more time learning about. All right. So let's go through the 24 essential database marketing techniques relatively quickly. The first one is something called LTV, or customer lifetime value. By the way, it is sometimes abbreviated as CLV or LTV. They're the same. This can be calculated in any industry or any business. It's used to develop direct marketing strategies. It's a widely used sort of a concept that talks about how valuable a customer is to you over time. So we're going to be talking about LTVs and CLVs, same thing. And then we're also going to show you how to make those calculations and get a feel for how you would use those calculations to determine strategies and to also determine what sorts of programs are working and not working. Second is RFM. This is an abbreviation for recency, frequency, and monetary value. This is a way for individual companies to evaluate their customers in terms of how recently they have purchased from you, how frequently they have purchased from you, and how much money they have spent with you. This is an approach that many of the casinos use, an RFM strategy. There is this notion of customer communications, and we talk about personalized customer communications, and we also talk about customized customer communications. In the true nomenclature of database marketing, personalized customer communications is when we use your name rather than dear loyal customer or our friends at some sort of address. When we use your actual name in both the address and within the communication. So we personalize the communication so that it looks like we are speaking one-to-one. Then there is this notion of customized customer communications, and this is where different customers get different messages. So if you're my best customer, I might make you a different offer than if you're my medium best customer. So the idea here is that not only do I personalize the message, but I also customize it based on your previous behaviors and how valuable you are to the organization. We have something here called appended data. So when I have a database, I have a file for you, and I have a bunch of information in it. I probably have your name and your address, and maybe your credit card information, and maybe I have some of your purchase information, but I can append other data to that. And we're going to talk about appending data to files. Some of the data that we might append to your file that we don't ordinarily have real quick would be things like age, income, house value, home ownership, presence of children, length at residence, and a bunch of other variables that might be of value to us over time. For businesses, it could be things like SIC codes or number of employees or annual sales. We're going to spend time talking about predictive models. We can take that appended data and all the data we have on customers, and we can use it to make predictions about how customers will react to an offer, how likely they are to defect, and what they're likely to do in the future. These, of course, are called predictive models. And while we're not going to spend too much time getting into all of the gory details of predictive modeling, we are going to do enough of this so that you get a feeling for predictive modeling, and then any organization that you go to work for will have some predictive models already in place to analyze. We're going to use the term relational databases. There are two sorts of databases ordinarily available. One is called a relational database, the other is called a hierarchical database. A hierarchical database is an Excel file where we have a line of data and we have a bunch of information on that line of data. So we have one line of data for each individual. Relational databases are different than that. That is, they allow us to link all of the data in all of our databases to an individual customer number that we have assigned to you. And then we can do a number of different things quickly and easily based on that customer identification number. We're going to talk a lot about caller ID, and you're all familiar with caller ID. We all use it ourselves. Well, of course, databasers have a caller ID that is designed to not allow you to block the information. So if you call a good online company or good phone sales company, so if you order something from Land's End in the middle of Wisconsin, and if you've ordered from them before, all of your purchase data comes up on the screen because they're able to identify your account based on the caller ID. Of course, one of the essentials for all database marketing is the use of websites, and we're going to talk about websites, and we're going to talk about social media platforms. Whether or not a company needs a Facebook page, or whether or not they could do the same things with a website, or is one perhaps more valuable than the other. Another essential database marketing strategy and technique is called email. Now, you and I all know that we get a lot of spam emails, but the truth is that most marketers would love to communicate with their customers via email. Now, there are some pluses and minuses associated with email, but the number one plus is that it is inexpensive. And it's fast. I can email you something immediately. We're going to talk about the idea of test and controls, because all database marketing strategies should be tested. And we have the ability to actually test them on our customer databases. We're going to talk about loyalty programs, also sometimes called frequency programs, and also sometimes called rewards programs. We're going to talk about sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly associated with loyalty programs. Another essential database marketing technique is analytical software. That is software that will allow us to analyze in a sophisticated way the data that we have on each individual customer. We are also going to be talking about web access to the database. That is gated databases and those sorts of things where we capture information on individuals when they access our database. We're going to talk about lists, renting lists, building lists, and marketing to lists. Both email lists, phone lists, and surface mail lists. We're going to talk about campaign management software. So there are a number of different companies that have campaign management software. And of course, the goal behind this is for us to easily be able to track how and who and when people have responded to our direct marketing offers. We're going to talk a little bit about address hygiene or database hygiene. This is all about making sure that our database is accurate so we don't send 2 direct mail pieces to the same person or email the same person twice. There is something called profitability analysis where we try to analyze and determine how much money each customer is worth to us. We do that with lifetime value. The goal in lifetime value is not to figure out how much money you spent with us, but it is to determine how profitable you are to us. We're going to talk about customer segmentation using database strategies and techniques, and we're also going to be talking about something called microsegmentation, where we break segments down into smaller and smaller segments so that we can customize the communications for each of those segments. Think, for an example, right now, if you are in a Players Club card program at Stations Casinos. Mostly what you get is their monthly sort of newsletter based on how much you play there. So if you're a heavy player and play a lot there, you're a more valuable customer to them, and so you get a different set of offers and a different communication every month than someone who gambles less. But there are other ways that we could segment that database. So for instance, if you only use the sports and race books, then we don't need to make you sorts of offers on slot machines necessarily, or offers for something else. We need to identify micro segments so that we can customize each offer more and more and make it more relevant to you. Another thing that we talk about with database marketing is multi-channel or omni-channel marketing, where we omni-channel is basically where we go seamlessly from one channel to the next. Walmart is an unusual case, and that is that Walmart has products that are in their store. If you buy them online, the price is different than if you buy them in store. And sometimes you can buy them online cheaper and just go down to the store and pick up the product. Now that is not omni-channel marketing, that's multi-channel marketing. Omni-channel would have that never happen that way, so that no matter how you are buying and no matter how you are communicating with us, it is seamless. Another thing that we're going to talk about in the course is treating customers differently based on how valuable they are to the organization. Our best customers should get our best service and our best offers and our best thank yous. We're going to talk about the strategy called next best product. So the next best product is to determine what else I should try to sell to you when you buy something. So when you buy a canoe, perhaps I ought to be trying to sell you canoe paddles or life jackets or sunscreen or roof racks to carry that canoe. We're going to talk about penetration analysis, all right? So penetration analysis is an attempt to determine what our share of wallet is with you and how much of our database how much share are we getting from our database for any particular product category. There is this notion called cluster coding. That is Claritas and other companies. It's now actually Claritas sold this end of their business to Nielsen. This is where we append data that gives us some more both psychographic, social, and demographic information so that we can maybe do a better job of customizing communications. And then, of course, there is this notion of status levels. This, of course, of whether or not you're I'm not sure, you're each of these programs have different platinum, gold, silver, bronze, copper, nickel, stainless steel, iron, lead, dirt, however many status levels we have. and so that we can use those status levels to determine how valuable you are to the organization and to customize our communications with you. So these are some of the things that database marketers can do that in many cases traditional marketers can't.